800-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Despite overwhelming support from Democrats and Republicans, time is running out for Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act, which will keep AM radio in cars. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Financial Focus with Leo Leiden. Weekday mornings 8 to 9 on WBNW, 1120 AM and 102.9 FM. The Money Matters Radio Network. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Discover the fish and farm market at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we've got a guide this month titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs. Mike, RMDs, or Required Minimum Distributions, what are they exactly?
Yeah, it's not something you really think about when you're 45 years old and putting money in there, but eventually the IRS forces you to start taking the money out. And so an RMD, a required minimum distribution, is an annual amount that you must start taking out once you hit a certain age. It used to be 70.5 for everyone. Now it's as high as age 75 for some folks on their traditional 401k and IRA assets.
So something like a Roth IRA for an individual would not have a required distribution.
Yeah, just one of the many benefits of a Roth IRA is that lack of a required minimum distribution for the initial account holder.
When you talk about how to figure out how much your required distribution is going to be, how do you determine what that amount is once you hit the age at which you qualify for them?
Talk to a professional, I think, is my answer, because it is pretty complicated. But the IRS publishes this giant table about uniform life expectancies, and then you have to, compare your age to the table, compare it to your year-end balance, and come up with that dollar amount. And that dollar amount is the one that has to be withdrawn by the year end of that year.
The guide is titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. Again, the guide is titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs, and that phone number to request it is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have debt destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Register now at dav5k.boston.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane.
Good morning and welcome to the Financial Exchange. It's a Tuesday ahead of an Inflation Wednesday. We get a reading on the Consumer Price Index tomorrow, followed by initial jobless claims and the Producer Price Index on Thursday. There are a couple of companies reporting earnings this week, but nothing all that significant. And then, of course, we have the, are we calling this the second presidential debates tonight?
Sure.
Different people, but, nonetheless, second presidential debate going on this evening. So we'll be talking about what we here at the Financial Exchange will be listening to when it comes to that. But first, I would argue maybe the most overstated title of an article so far this year. We've got the vibecession ending as the U.S. economy nails a soft landing, economists say. I don't know about you, Paul, but I guess the only economist that I can point to that has said we are nailing the soft landing would be Janet Yellen, whose job it is to talk about the positivity of the U.S. economy because she works for the Biden administration at this point. But nonetheless, we're going to dive in right there to discuss and debate whether or not we are nailing the soft landing right now. So first of all, let's define the soft landing. And there is no definition because it is, not an actual economic term. It's not a recession. There is no exact definition. Even if it were a recession, there's no exact economic definition of a recession either. We just rely on this group in Cambridge, Massachusetts to determine whether or not we have one. But Chuck and I generally defined a soft landing as getting through 2024 with both unemployment and inflation remaining below 4.5%. So by that definition, we are in soft landing territory, but we haven't landed the plane would be my takeaway here. Right now, we've got the overall U.S. unemployment rate sitting at 4.2%, has been as high as 4.3%. And we've got year-over-year inflation numbers. Sorry, I have to pull up my spreadsheet.
2.5% on the core PCE data as through July.
Which is what the Fed looks at when they talk about, overall inflation. So, yeah, core PCE, 2.6% as of the month of July, 2.5% if you look at the overall number. And any of the averages you look at over the last 6 months, 3 months are all trending in that direction. So, to define it, I do think we are in soft landing territory, but to say that we have landed that plane, I think is a bit too early at this stage, and the jobs report last Friday didn't exactly help make that any clearer.
Yeah, I know that you and Chuck were particularly negative on the jobs report, and one of the things that I couldn't help thinking about, though, Mike, is we've seen significant revisions to those jobs report over the course of the last 6 to 8 months, negatively, to be fair,
Sure.
but with the number that we saw, the unemployment number, that came in terms of the percentage right in line with what we anticipated, but the jobs added were weaker than anticipated, and I just wonder if we shouldn't overreact, to that number just because of the sampling errors. And to be clear, I guess it could go worse than anticipated there. That's one of the pieces that I picked on more. I differ a little bit, that I feel like, I don't want to speak for Chuck fully, he was quite negative on the report. And I'm just not sure if I'm there yet, if this is full proof that we are headed in that direction. I'm not soft landing, but I'm not recessionary either.
Yeah, so I don't think that this jobs report, in my opinion, did not tell us that we are in recession.
Yeah.
And in fact, it could have pointed much more clearly in that direction had the unemployment rate ticked up with the other factors that we had come in. If I want to cherry pick some very good data points from that jobs report, you had them. You had the unemployment rate flatline. Basically didn't move. It came down very slightly to 4.2%.
Right.
Wage growth, also pretty solid in this report. I don't know what to make of that. We're going to cover another story later about a major U.S. employer still talking about raising wages right now because they can't attract people into certain jobs. And so if I cherry pick those two data points, are they supportive of a soft landing argument? Absolutely. The concern that I have is, to your point, we've gotten a lot of revisions over the last several months, and I think that played a key role in the negativity here. Is you revised down job creation estimates by 87,000. That was a big move over a 2-month time period. And generally speaking, when you start getting big revisions to jobs reports, historically they don't tend to suddenly go, oh, and now we're revising jobs upwards by hundreds of thousands. Like, those trends oftentimes continue in one direction if they are significant. And I think that would be the fear is, hey, we've had the number of jobs created slowly come down. We've had the unemployment rate slowly creep up. Any revisions that we've received over the last 3 months have been towards fewer jobs created. And so, again, was this jobs report from last Friday a catastrophe? No, by no stretch. In fact, it kicked out the argument of what the actual state of the economy is and whether or not we're going into recession by another month or two.
Yep.
But it also, that jobs report also had the ability to kind of save the narrative of, we are nailing the soft landing now. It definitively did not do that.
Sure.
It definitely did not accomplish that. And I think, in my mind, the biggest concern really came from the revisions to the last 2 months that, along with the previous year revisions, painted an economy that is far less robust on the labor market side than we previously understood.
Yeah, so if you want to argue soft landing, your focus will be inflation, the year-over-year number at 2.5%. That's phenomenal progress that we've seen there. And consumer spending, I think those are going to be your two pillars that you're really going to lean on heavily. If I wanted to say, Mike, you're off your rocker, we're in a really good spot. And I'm not saying that, but just to make that counterpoint, those are the two things that you're going to lean on. The consumer spent up 1% month over month. Consumer spending was up for the month of July, a really good number posted there. It seems as if that has been the recurring theme really over the last 2 years, is a very resilient consumer during this period of time of high inflation. Inflation has come down. That has continued to hold up okay, the consumer spending. And like I said, inflation's under a good standpoint. However, like you said, the counterpoint to that soft landing idea is the labor market. It's got to be all in and around the labor market. If you want to point to recession, that's what you're keying in on in terms of slowdown in economic progress. So those are really the two forces that we have pinning against each other as we look to see if we've nailed that soft landing.
One last piece that does matter, and I don't know how much it matters because it's been so broken over the last few years, but we've talked about, and in fact we're kind of a clip of our show was picked up and somewhat teased by a national financial podcast about the vibecession. And the story of the vibecession has been that in spite of really solid economic growth data out there and really low unemployment and wage gains that outpaced inflation for the last year or so, when you asked people how they're feeling about the economy, at least in 2022 and 2023,
stunk.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was worse readings than we saw in the depth of the 2008 financial crisis. And I said, what the hell is wrong with people? I know that prices are through the roof, but at least you got a job. And so I looked at those and couldn't really I couldn't really put them together other than to say people really hate prices moving up this substantially, and we haven't had to deal with that since the 1970s. That was the only real explanation I could come up with. Today, the way the economy is going and what people are saying about the way the economy is going are much closer together. It's not that the vibes, the sentiment has dramatically improved. It has improved somewhat. It's just that those expectations around things like where inflation is going to be and how people feel about the state of the economy and whether or not it's going to improve, in my mind at least, have lined up a little bit better now with the actual facts on the ground.
I would agree. It seems like it's been late to the party that the overall sentiment has come into more positive territory. And what's funny is it might be so late, Mike, that we could see sentiment improving as the economy decelerates and almost crisscrossing paths in a different direction.
Yeah, let's be clear about this. There is no good study showing out there that how people feel about the economy has anything to do with how it's actually doing. And in fact, the average person and consumers are notoriously bad about spotting recessions, and you'll see things like consumer spending and retail investments in the stock market, pile in at the worst possible second, historically speaking. So I would not use anything about that as a forward-looking indicator, but rather just, improvement in sentiment can have other implications, like what happens in elections and things.
No, interesting. On inflation, there is some credence to the idea that consumer sentiment can have an impact, but we're kind of past the inflation talk now. It's all about the labor market and the R word, the recession. That's what the focus is now.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we have the debate tonight. Let's dig in there. There's a story from Bloomberg here, I believe. Yeah, Bloomberg, that equity traders are bracing for this pivotal Trump-Harris debate. We'll dig in there next on the Financial Exchange.
The Financial Exchange is now available on your Alexa smart speaker. Ask to play the Financial Exchange and catch up on anything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who've served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K, a run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Trusts are essential documents that can help protect your assets from the nursing home. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Let them help determine which is right for you. That's 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting their website at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
If you're approaching or have recently reached the age of 73, required minimum distributions should be a key consideration as you evaluate your retirement strategy. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. There are several factors to think about when it comes to RMDs, including the types of accounts that require RMDs, when to take your withdrawals, how your RMD is calculated, and the penalty for missing all or part of an RMD. That's what our new guide this month is all about. It's called Frequently Asked Questions About Required Minimum Distributions, and you can get your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. RMDs are a key part of your retirement strategy, so don't delay. Get your guide today by calling 800-393-4001. That number one more time, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are three of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th through January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have Debt Destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Summer is just about over, so now's the time to start looking at a fabulous holiday vacation, and there's no better place than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Enjoy perfect weather, world-class dining, incredible beaches, and a vibrant nightlife. No passport is needed. There's no money to exchange. Take your next vacation in America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com to book your trip. That's visitusvi.com.
Edgy traders brace for potentially pivotal Trump-Harris debate. So let me be clear about something. I do think this debate is pivotal. I just don't think it matters one bit, or maybe it does matter for equity markets, but it's unclear how it matters and why it matters and which direction it will drive stocks. Let me start there. Is it pivotal? Yeah, I mean the last one certainly was. So I'm not going to look at this one and say that nobody's going to watch or pay attention. Like absolutely, this debate is pivotal. It will matter. It's the first time Harris has really given anything truly dramatically unscripted, and so it's going to be pivotal. I think for some portion of Americans who haven't fully made up their mind yet of who they're going to vote for, or frankly whether or not they are even going to cast a vote for either of these two candidates. That's where. I mean, frankly, that's where I think the difference is. It's not, this debate's going to make me switch who I'm going to vote for. It's, hey, do either of these people inspire me enough to even want to show up to the poll in maybe 7 states?
Right.
That's what we're talking about really matters here. But, let's talk about, actually, first things first, before we get into different policies of the two, I want to talk about markets and, generally how they perform. First things first. Markets during election years, going back through modern history, don't perform much better or worse than non-election years. So could there be more volatility surrounding the election, especially given this year, given the craziness of this election cycle? Sure. Would I try and stack up some bets based on where I think the debate performance is going to go? I wouldn't even know where to start, and I don't think anyone else would either. The other piece that I just found interesting, the Wall Street Journal put together their own piece on this, and brought up some research by Ned Davis Research, examining data going back over 100 years, so March 30th of 1901 through January 31st of 2024. What they found was that the Dow Jones Industrial Average has risen at an annualized rate of 8.2% under Democratic presidents from the date of their inauguration, and at an annualized rate of 3.2% under Republican administrations. Now, I had to hit pause there for a moment because that was not generally my understanding of how markets performed over large periods of time. So a few things about this. One, they're talking about the Dow, which is, as we've talked about, not a perfect index for looking at how the overall U.S. markets perform. But another few pieces here. One, the Republican and Democrat parties going back to the early 1900s don't look a whole lot like they do today. Mm-hmm. So important distinction there. 2, I would be very interested in rerunning this data if you were willing to take out Herbert Hoover's run in office, because he oversaw 1929 to 1933 in terms of the stock market. And if you recall, some not great stuff happened in the Great Depression in terms of stock market performance, so I'm not sure that that would be all that unique. And then, also you have to acknowledge here that you had George W. Bush overseeing one of the worst periods of stock market performance in history, 2001 through 2008. Obama took office on January 20th of 2009, so just about when the markets had already bottomed. So I would also say this is completely useless. Whether the Democrat or Republican is in office is not driving the stock market returns in one direction or another. They just happen to be coinciding with overseeing business cycles. Are there things that happen around the edges? Sure. Is it going to drive market performance in one direction or another based on if we have a Democrat or Republican in office? I seriously doubt it.
No, I always bring up the point with clients, particularly around the election cycle, that Bill Clinton is not responsible for the emergence of the dot-com boom and the internet frenzy in the late 90s, nor is George W. Bush fully responsible for everything that went on from 2001, which were kind of the unwinding of all that enthusiasm, or 2008. Economies move in cycles, and there are much major factors in play. And it frustrates me. I'll go even further to your point that the debate to me is there's two different hats that you can wear. The political hat, yeah, it's absolutely pivotal for the political discourse and for the election, what happens in this debate tonight. However, the economic hat, to me, it's almost inconsequential for the immediate reaction of markets. If you look back to the previous one, which was a very significant debate, I mean, how much more activity can you have off of a debate than we saw? And if you look at whether it's the VIX, which is a fear gauge volatility measure, trying to gauge how much equity markets are moving at that time, it was extremely low. And if you look at interest rates, they did not deviate significantly, at least the night after the debate, from the first one that occurred on June 27th. So I just push back on that notion that markets are going to have some wild reaction tomorrow. That's not what they're going to move based on.
So other interesting stuff, looking at data from 1972 on, under Democrat administrations, information technology and industrials have had the best track record, outperforming other sectors. Under Republican administrations, healthcare has had the best record, while industrials have had the worst. Again, let's say that you could use, I'd be more inclined to believe, at least with, I think the politics have changed quite a bit with the implementation of tariffs and just a very different focus of Republican versus Democrat administrations these days. But let's say you even wanted to use this information, and let's assume that it continues to be true for a moment here. So to place a bet that's going to be successful, one, you have to know who's going to win the White House. Then you have to know who's going to win the House and the Senate. You have to know if they're going to have a supermajority to be able to pass the bills that they want to. And then you have to know that they're actually going to behave like previous administrations to give you the leg up on, oh yeah, this sector is going to outperform the other ones. I would point towards the Biden administration. We've talked about this before. The Biden campaign, when they ran 4 years ago, in my mind, biggest thing that stuck to me was this president, if he gets in, is going to pass a lot of positive policy for renewable energy. That was kind of my takeaways. He wanted to make those campaign pledges. He's going to shut down drilling. He's going to pass subsidies for EVs and batteries and solar and all sorts of stuff. Then he did. Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act, biggest subsidy for renewable energy that we have ever seen in our nation's history. Go take a look at how those companies, that sector, has performed under the Biden administration. Give it a quick comparison to the traditional oil and gas sector, for example. How many people were placing bets saying, oh yeah, Biden gets in, I'm going deep on big oil companies, right? Like that would not have been the bet. But had you done it, you probably would have turned out a hell of a lot better than had you gone and invested in a bunch of solar companies. So my takeaway here is presidential politics are important. They matter to everyone. But trying to figure out how the markets are going to react to them, good luck. Good luck. Put it away. Quick break. Wall Street Watch is next.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Discover the fish and farm market at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Together, let's honor all who have sacrificed for our freedom. Register or donate now at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up.
Because we have something better.
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit goredforwomen.org today to learn more.
Saving money in an IRA or a 401k can provide tax advantages and are excellent ways to help make sure you're financially prepared for retirement. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and if you're nearing retirement, you need to be aware of the federal regulations regarding required minimum distributions. Once you reach a certain age, you must begin withdrawing money from these accounts. RMDs can influence which accounts to withdraw from first and how much you'll owe in taxes during retirement. If you need information regarding the rules related to RMDs, call us at 800-393-4001 and ask for your copy of our new free guide called Frequently Asked Questions about Required Minimum Distributions. RMDs are a core element to your retirement strategy, and this guide can help educate you on the rules related to them. That number again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about your new guide, Todd, Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. If there are younger families out there, should they consider having a trust in place, and what type?
Most people don't think about it when you're young, but if you're a young family, meaning you've got minor children, you might not have a ton of assets yet, but you want to make sure that what you do have is protected for your children. You could probably use a revocable trust. I don't think you need an irrevocable trust, but a revocable trust. You put your assets in. Again, they're going to avoid probate. Again, it may or may not be a big estate tax issue at the moment, but whatever you have, your children can own, right? They are minors. So you don't necessarily want to leave your assets to a guardian and have the guardian deal with everything when you can design a trust to hold the assets and ensure how and when and where and why they get these assets. Just pick the right trustee, put the language you need in the trust to control it for those children, and the trust will accomplish that task. So just because you're young, folks, doesn't mean you shouldn't think about your estate planning. Sometimes it's not all about the money and the probate and the taxes, but more so about the family behind the estate plan.
The estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years, and they have written a brand new guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Call right now for your free copy, 866-848-5699. That's 848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, after yesterday's rebound, markets today are in mixed territory as Wall Street readies for tomorrow morning's latest gauge on inflation when the Consumer Price Index is released. Right now, the Dow is down by 244 points, or 0.6%. S&P 500 is up by only 1 point. And the NASDAQ is up by about 0.33%, or 54 points. Russell 2000 is down by 0.2%. 10-year Treasury yield down by 1 basis point at 3.68%. And crude oil down over 3.5% now, trading just above $66 a barrel. Big news out of Southwest Airlines this morning, where Executive Chairman and former CEO Gary Kelly announced he will retire next year amid other shakeups to its board. The airline continues to face pressure for changes by activist investor Elliott Investment. Shares in Southwest are currently down by 4%. Meanwhile, shares in Oracle are up by 13% after the cloud software company beat quarterly expectations, where its partnership with NVIDIA boosted revenue. Furthermore, Oracle agreed to a new deal with Amazon Web Services. After unveiling its new line of iPhones yesterday, Apple shares are down by about 0.5%. Aside from its product event, the European Union's top court upheld an order allowing Ireland to recoup more than $14 billion plus interest in taxes from Apple. Elsewhere, Under Armour cut its annual outlook, citing higher restructuring costs as it closes a distribution facility and lays off employees. That stock down by 7%. And after today's closing bell, we'll see earnings from Petco, GameStop, and Dave & Buster's. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Paul, we're going to talk about something that we don't frequently go into and review because they've become almost taboo in a lot of places, and I think for good reason they have become taboo and difficult to get, but it's reverse mortgages. So you've probably heard advertisements all over for them at some point or another. I know I've seen TV ads for them, but when I kind of think about the reverse mortgage space, I kind of look at it, I do look at it as last resort. And there's a piece here from, I believe it's Barron's today, talking about how it may be the best way to go for retirees who are short on cash. And it basically outlines how they work. And I would say that I think is the area that I would agree with, is it could be the best way to go for a specific group of retirees, those who are short on cash, and really those only. Right? It's important to really understand how these things work. And so they outline a few cases here. There's two basic types of reverse mortgages. There's your lump sum reverse mortgage, where you borrow a sum. That's been the kind of traditional way of doing it, where you borrow a big sum of money. You never have to pay it back. The sum of money, instead of you making interest payments, it just grows because there's a built-in interest rate. And so you get a statement regularly that says, oh yeah, the $300,000 that you borrowed is now $370,000 because of fees and interest. And so if you sell your home, then they're going to first recoup this reverse mortgage. Or if you pass away in your home, your beneficiaries, your kids, will have to sort out, okay, is the home above water or underwater with this reverse mortgage? Can we pay it back if we sell the property, or do we just relinquish control of the home to the bank? There's also then your line of credit reverse mortgage, which does operate a little bit differently, but effectively think of it as a HELOC, where you're not making payments on it. It's just accumulating over time. And there you're susceptible to moves in interest rates, just like you would be on a home equity line of credit. I'm not going to say these things don't have their place, because clearly, there are circumstances where they make sense. But as I mentioned before, my concern is I think that they probably get pushed a little bit too much. And I know back in the day, for instance, people were pushing them and saying, hey, you've got all this equity in your home. You should take it out and go, do this awesome investment, because look how much it's going to return. And gosh, that's where things get really, really hairy, really, really fast. That in my mind is akin to gambling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, Mike, the thing that just continues to rattle around my head when we talk about the subject of reverse mortgage is what you said earlier. It's last resort. Those are the two words that I think about the most, is that this is something that you tap when you've depleted basically all of your financial resources. That, to me, that's really the only place that I see for it. They mentioned some other instances in here, but I just would be really wary of utilizing it for anything else other than that, just because the roof over your head is one of the most important things other than your health that you need to get by. So it's just something that you have to proceed with tremendous amounts of caution.
Yeah, the difficult part too, though, is in addition to being eligible, you have to be over a certain age requirement and things along those lines. Obviously, you have to be of sound mind to be able to do a reverse mortgage, right? If you're cognitively declining, you have to take a class on this type of thing. You cannot just do it, and so that's important. But also, you have to prove that you have the ability to pay taxes and insurance on your home.
Right.
And so if you spend all of your other financial assets and don't have the ability to do that, then that gets called into question too. So it's not exactly something that can be put off forever, but also, like I said, kind of in my mind is looked at as a last resort. The other piece that I didn't really know, they gave out an example here of, I don't know where this woman lived, but she was evaluating the reverse mortgage and went through the whole process. The cost of setting up the line of credit alone came to $25,000. That was the beginning balance on her home equity line that had nothing to do with her actually using the money. That was $25,000 just in setup costs on this type of loan. So the costs are very much real. And I guess I would just point out that, yeah, there are circumstances where it can be the way to go, but it requires a lot of planning if you're going to go in that direction and proceed with caution. Folks, I want to talk to you about exciting development on the financial exchange, something new that we haven't done, I think, in over a year, Tucker, maybe 2.
I think it was 2, yeah.
It's been quite some time, but we're hosting 2 live broadcasts of this show, The Financial Exchange, here in Massachusetts. We're doing one at the MGM Springfield, and then we're doing another one at the brand new Margaritaville Hotel and Resort on Hyannis. So I want to get you the dates of these and give you the means of signing up. But again, 2 live broadcasts of the show. We'll then be doing an educational seminar after the fact with the Armstrong Advisory Group. But the first one is being held on Tuesday, October 8th. That's at the MGM Springfield. The second one, Margaritaville Hotel and Resort in Hyannis on October 24th. You can come in person, check out the show, see how we do it. Tucker, will you be there or are you going to be here?
Most likely here, but I think Ben's going to be there.
Okay, so Chuck and I will be there. Tucker may or may not be there. He reserves the right to be there, but
somebody's got to run the ship here.
No, I think Tucker's going to be wasting away in Margaritaville.
That seems much more likely. Ed Lampert's going to be joining us down on the Cape after the fact, so you'll get to meet Ed if you'd like to as well. We'll be discussing the upcoming presidential election, economic policies that we should have a better read of by that point in time in terms of what they are planning to propose, and then just generally how the economic landscape changes during presidential election years and after elections. If you want to sign up for these events, again, October 8th and October 24th, you can get more information 2 ways. One, you can call us by calling 800-393-4001. The second way is please just go to our website and sign up. You can go to armstrongadvisory.com/events. Fill out the form associated with the event if you'd like to attend. Again, that's armstrongadvisory.com/events for the events on October 8th and October 24th, live broadcast of the show, and then a seminar after with the Armstrong Advisory Group. 800-393-4001 or armstrongadvisory.com/events.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Speaking of, we've been talking earlier about the state of the labor market, and again, a lot of things pointing towards a loosening labor market, but then you get stories like this next one where it just kind of runs in the face of what you had been anticipating. So Bank of America says they're going to be raising their minimum hourly pay to $24 per hour as tellers continue to flee the industry. It's not a huge increase for them. They're currently at $23 an hour, and they're going to be bumping it up. But they do have 212,000 employees across the country. A lot of them do work in these branches, and this will be another bump in pay for this position. I can imagine why it's difficult to hire for. It's a skill set that is not dissimilar to other low-paying type jobs, whether it's somebody working checkout, for instance, but requires a whole lot more in the way of background check, I would imagine all sorts of requirements to be handling money at a bank that don't exist if you want to say, run checkout at a grocery store, for example. And so that's a big increase. But again, I find it contrary to what we're hearing elsewhere about the labor market, where companies are saying, hey, we're pulling back on hiring. We're not looking to do this. And Bank of America is saying, no, we can barely retain employees. We have to start bumping this up. That same job was only paying $15 an hour back in 2019.
Yeah, that's what blew me away the most, Mike, is over a 5-year period, you've seen that increase from $15 an hour to $25. Now, of course, there's been a lot of inflation that's come with that time period as well. But overall, if you just look at wage growth throughout the country, it obviously peaked around 2022 when inflation was at its highest, around 6 or 7%. That's the 3-month moving average of wage growth that I'm quoting there. It's come down significantly since then. To be clear, though, that was a real high that had been set in 22. It now hovers around about 4.5% plus in terms of what we're seeing overall from the economy in terms of wage growth. So not at its peak, but in some sectors it appears still seeing some upticks based on demand. I just can't imagine that bank branches will continue to expand. It seems like our generation has less and less reliance for those. I'm not saying you don't need them at all, but when I read this article, I'm like, how many tellers do you really need in terms of physical locations?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but both Bank of America and Chase have made branches in strategic locations a key plan for their expansion over the next few years.
Right.
And I'm interested because I'm right. I don't need to go to a branch. But here's the question that I have. Would you go open a new checking account specifically, like an account that you're going to pay all of your bills with and use as a primary checking account, if the bank had no branch in your area? My answer is probably not.
No, you would not. Yeah.
And so I've got a colleague that banked at Wells Fargo because they were in their area down in Connecticut, and same story. He had to do something with a bank branch because there's no other way to get it done for something.
Signature,
I don't remember what
it
was.
Yeah.
You have to drive his rear end down to New York City to get this thing done. Yeah. So, the branch is less and less important, but it is, I think, a prerequisite to get accounts.
Establishing a relationship.
Yeah. Quick break, but a lot more to cover in the next segment of the Financial Exchange. Big event from Apple unveiling their new products for the year here at their fall event. We'll be covering that as well as some new fines against big U.S. tech companies across the European Union. That's next on the Financial Exchange.
Business and financial news affecting the markets and your wallet. We've got it all straight from Wall Street right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The following is an important message from SAB Solutions Incorporated, your trusted advisor for companies needing inventory management. Visit them online at sabsolutionsma.com.
I'm Colleen Sullivan with SAB Solutions. Does your warehouse need help with tracking inventory? Are you dealing with customers who are bothered by missed shipments and stock discrepancies? At SAB Solutions, we've been a trusted advisor to a wide variety of companies over the last 15 years. We offer our clients customized solutions to track their inventory using real-time data and digital technology, and our barcode scanning capabilities will help eliminate manual processes, which are time-consuming, can cause errors and delay shipments. Don't let mismanaged inventory slow your business down. Our solutions will provide you with a competitive advantage, saving you time and money and allowing you to operate more effectively and efficiently. For more information and a no-cost assessment, visit us online at sabsolutionsma.com. That's sabsolutionsma.com.
Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are 3 of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th through January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder life planning and taxation. They know that every family is unique and that every estate plan must be different. Early planning is crucial if you want a stress-free retirement, and trusts are oftentimes the document of choice to help protect your assets. But with so many kinds of trusts, you need to learn about which one is right for your plan. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are most common, but there are several differences, as well as numerous tax implications with each. If you're ready to start your planning or need to refresh an existing plan, call Cushing & Dolan and ask for their new guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Learn how to protect your assets and potentially eliminate your estate taxes. Call 866-848-5699 right now and ask for your guide today. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange has built an incredible partnership with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We can't wait to take part in this year's DAV 5K set for Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence on Castle Island, and registration's now open. You can help our great American heroes by walking, running, or simply making a donation. Your gifts will support services such as the Veteran Advancement Program, which offers permanent and affordable housing opportunities for veterans and their dependents. Learn more at DAV5K.Boston. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Apple came out yesterday and introduced the latest version of their flagship device, the iPhone 16, and big focus on artificial intelligence there. Now, important caveat here, while the device is being, quote, built for AI from the ground up, there won't really be any artificial intelligence on-device capabilities at rollout. Instead, it's going to be taking place via software rollouts over the next few years as they put these things on the device in the software integrated there. And look, I can get the appeal of having on-device artificial intelligence where you're not going to OpenAI and, putting in something with, who knows how that information's being used. There's some privacy benefit here. But this is one of a few steps over the last few years that I'm kind of just questioning why Apple's doing, of rolling out a product that's seemingly not usable in the same way that many of their other devices are, right? Like, when I look at the biggest successes of Apple, the iPhone, AirPods, the Apple Watch, all of these were existing products that had done quite well over time. Heck, you go back further, the iPod. These were products, the MP3 player had been out for years when the iPod came out. We'd all been using BlackBerries and other smartphones for years before the iPhone came out. We had all used headphones in one way or another, even wireless ones, for quite some time before they rolled out the iPods. And Samsung and many others beat out Apple to first in market with the Apple Watch by quite a bit. There's almost no one, Google has implemented some AI features, but there's almost nobody out there that is pushing AI in the way that Apple is now doing. There is nobody that has successfully rolled out a usable VR headset in the way that Apple is now trying to push. And I'm just curious, I'm curious if they'll be able to execute it on execute on it in the same way. And 2, I'm curious, I don't know if I said A or 1 there, but in either case, 2/B. I wonder why. Is there a distinct reason here where they're learning that, hey, we used to be able to just rip off a whole bunch of, what am I thinking of? Patents and put them into our devices and we were fine. And hey, ever since we lost that case against the company that invented the O2 sensor in our watch, maybe we do feel like we need to be first to market here.
Yeah, it's an interesting point where they find themselves at. Thinking back over their history, Mike, the successes that they've had, there's been a really simplified delivery in terms of what the message was. The iPod, for example, 1,000 songs in your pocket, that was ahead of anyone else in the space at that time to be able to store that much audio on there. The phone has basically become a computer in your pocket, right, that we rely on so heavily, and they do it the best in that space too. The watch, similarly, I think you could say that in terms of a digital watch, they're probably the number one player in the space. When you look at the innovation with AI, can they be the best player in the space? Can they use it most efficiently to impact their consumers, to benefit them? That remains to be seen. It seems like here they're sort of grasping at straws in terms of what the impact will look like. It's going to take some time before it rolls out. So I don't know, and it's pointed out here that this makes you sell more phones on September 20th because they're only going to come out through software updates, these AI features, and it's sort of unclear as to how much benefit people will receive from those. Summary of messages has been mentioned out, emojis, sort of these minor pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be somebody out there who wants the brand new phone and sees the real benefit of on-device artificial intelligence. Some super user out there is going to love it, and the proof will be out there, right? Like if people start posting TikToks and YouTube videos of really cool stuff that the iPhone can do that no other device can, then sure, I'm sure it will sell. But again, another feature of Apple devices has been a status symbol. How do I stand out? Oh, well, I've got the white in-ear earbuds, and that's clearly an Apple device. You can't really do that with AI.
Yeah.
There's just no means in which to do so. And so I'll be interested to see where this goes or if it's a misstep by Apple. Let's take a quick break, but a lot more to cover on the second hour, including a big case against Google and Apple. And then a little bit of more Fed talk. We've got the meeting coming up next week. I wanted to discuss this piece as well. Quick break and full market coverage next on the Financial Exchange.
Despite overwhelming support from Democrats and Republicans, time is running out for Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act, which will keep AM radio in cars. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are 3 of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th through January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free, because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Every single day, more than 2,000 U.S. companies face a cyber threat or attack. The Boston Red Sox and Fenway Park chose Centripetal as their official cyber network security partner to ensure the protection of their network and ballpark. Intelligence is the answer to protecting your network, and Centripetal is the global leader of intelligence-powered cybersecurity. The choice is yours. Are you going to be another one of those attacked companies? Or are you ready to experience a radical new cybersecurity solution? Find out why the Red Sox chose Centripetal at www.centripetal.ai. Trusts are essential documents that can help protect your assets from the nursing home. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Let them help determine which is right for you. That's 866-848-5699. Or request the guide online by visiting their website at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs. Mike, one of the places where there's been a huge change in the last few years is with regards to inherited IRAs and whether individuals are required to take money out of them on an annual basis. What is the latest guidance from the IRS?
Well, the latest guidance is that it still depends. It depends on so much and so many complicating factors. Were you married at the time that you passed away? What's the age difference between you and the person who passed away? Are you older or younger? When did the person pass away? I could go on at length here, Chuck, but there are a lot of complicating factors. But generally speaking, yes, you are going to be subject to a required minimum distribution in most cases when you inherit a retirement.
And for someone who is inheriting a retirement account from someone other than a spouse, there also is this 10-year period with which you must exhaust the account completely, so you're going to have to end up having all of that come out as taxable income, even if your RMDs don't satisfy that 10-year requirement.
Yeah, they really like to complicate this, and so you've got two competing formulas in there at all times about what you have to do with a retirement account that's inherited. Really, really complicated stuff, Joe.
It's a really complex issue. If you like to learn more about this topic, the guide again is titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. That guide again is titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs, and the phone number is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Are you retired like me, and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it, and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the tax relief line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to zero. That's right. If you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to zero due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
Discover the fish and farm markets at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who've served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K. A run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and irrevocable trusts can help you. Keep your assets safe from probate and the nursing home by calling Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699. Get their new guide called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org, CancerSupportMass.org.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane.
Good morning and welcome back to the Financial Exchange. We've got markets that were strongly positive yesterday, basically not moving this morning. We've got the Dow off 180 points, 0.4%. S&P almost exactly flat. The S&P 500 up 1 point. The Nasdaq up 31 points, basically 0.1%. In bond markets, we've got the yield in the 10-year Treasury continuing downwards to 3.672%. And the best news of the day that I can bring up would be crude prices. Crude prices off another 3.3%, down below $67 per barrel. I've been noticing this at the gas station. I don't know about you, Paul. I think I paid under $3 a gallon the other day at BJ's.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, definitely seeing a distinct move in gas prices here and oil prices. Taking a look at gas prices throughout the country, we're sitting on a national average of $3.26. In Massachusetts and New Hampshire, you're sitting below that average, $3.25 here in Massachusetts, $3.21 in New Hampshire. Maine, $3.29. Sorry, $3.30 if I round properly. $3.32 in Vermont, $3.28 in Connecticut, and Rhode Island, $3.13. So if you can make your way through Rhode Island on the direction of wherever you're going, then you can save a little bit on gas there as well. But yeah, I mean, that's the one positive thing I can look at as a global slowdown clearly takes shape, and it's not just the United States that's driving prices lower here. It's certainly demand from China impacting things, but we've had oil now under that $80 a barrel range for quite some time, and we're seeing that take shape in lower gas prices, which I will take, albeit not a great signal for the state of the economy. Anything else catching your eyes market-wise this morning, Paul?
No, nothing else out there.
So let's talk about this Google and Apple case that got handed down just this week. So these are not recent cases, to be clear. These are rulings that came from courts back in the 2010s. In Apple's case, I think it goes back to a case from 2016, where the European Union said, look, Ireland's tax code violated EU rules, and you're going to be forced to go and collect another $14.4 billion in taxes that Apple had been appealing. They'd appealed this all the way to this year, and final ruling came down in Luxembourg saying, no, yeah, Ireland, you got to go collect this. I know you don't want to collect this tax revenue because it's going to prohibit you from getting those new businesses that want to do whatever the reverse double Dutch Irish whatever crazy tax loophole thing. But Ireland going to be collecting $14.4 billion in back taxes, and that's been sitting in an escrow account as this lawsuit plays its way through the European Union, which $14.4 billion, I mean, Apple's revenues are massive, but that's not an insignificant sum. That's a couple quarters of Mac revenue just being paid out in back taxes by Apple here.
Yeah, not iPhone revenue, maybe Mac revenue, but it's interesting. The EU has really been at the forefront of being the technology watchdog out there. There are several cases that it's had, and finally in these two instances proving out that they can win out through the appeals process, something that the U.S. has really struggled with on the antitrust side of things. Two different cases, like Mike mentioned. The first one with Apple, they were upset because they were claiming that they're basically being double taxed. They paid taxes on the income already in the U.S., and now the EU has come and said, no, you have to pay taxes to Ireland for the European revenue generated as well. On the Google side of things, that was much more of an antitrust ruling that the EU came out with, where they are assessed to pay a 2.4 billion euro fine for a decision that was made in 2017 claiming that Google unfairly put its predominant comparison shopping center over its competitors during that period of time. So that decision was upheld. And
so I'm just trying to think practically what that means. So I think what it means is if I Googled a rain jacket, for example, in years past in the European Union, instead of being directed towards eBay, Amazon, Nordstrom, anywhere else, I would be driven to Google Shopping, where they get presumably some advertising revenue from any of those vendors who want to advertise on Google Shopping, which I'm sure Amazon didn't, but Nordstrom, I'm sure, paid fees to be filtered in through the Google Shopping network.
Yeah, that's what it seems like here, is kind of funneling people into their price comparison shopping service over some of the rival offerings.
Yep. That makes sense. I mean, Google here has now faced a number of successful antitrust. It really, we're talking about monopoly power cases, both in the EU and domestically here in the United States. We covered one yesterday, but they just finished up and lost the case on monopoly power on search, and at the same time, Justice Department now bringing a case for them on advertising revenue. And the interesting case, this is a U.S. case, not an EU case, but the interesting piece on the advertising revenue or the advertising, monopoly power piece. One, it's not terribly well known outside of, people that work in tech, advertising, of how that system works. It's not like the everyday person who does Google searches understands the functionality of all that. But two, the lawsuit's also coming at a time where Google's losing a lot of that dominance. If you take a look at how Apple and Amazon and Meta are pushing their way into the online advertising market, they are directly taking dollars from Google at the same time that they're facing this massive antitrust case. So the quite honestly, I feel as though the EU's way of doing things on a lot of these cases makes a hell of a lot more sense than the way we handle privacy and tech on the United States landscape. The one power that they're never going to have, which the United States does have, is to say, this is a monopoly, break it up.
Right.
For instance, the EU is taking Live Nation to court, I think this year, over their monopoly power. But worst case scenario, Live Nation faces a bunch of fines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's up to the United States to break up a U.S. company,
Right.
which, God, I wish they would in the case of Live Nation. So, interesting developing cases, and continue these big tech companies, not as though they pay a ton of taxes over in the EU, but if you want to have operations there, becoming more and more costly to do so on these lawsuits of what in many cases I think is pretty founded abuse of antitrust and anti-competitive practices that Google, Apple, and all these others employ there. Interesting piece here from the Census Bureau before we go to break, taking a look at where incomes actually came in. So the U.S. Census Bureau puts together their data on all of this on a regular basis. And new data out from the U.S. Census Bureau finally kind of proving out what I think most of us had known, but that incomes did substantially rise. And it's really the first time since the pandemic that you can look at this on an inflation-adjusted basis, right? Like we talked about this early on in 2021 and 22, which was, hey, wages moving up, but when you factor in inflation, people are still losing money. And in 2023, it was the first time that you saw real wages grow. So inflation-adjusted median household income was $80,610 in 2023. So again, that's inflation-adjusted median household income. So, oftentimes dual working household. That's up 4% from the 2022 estimate, which came in at $77,540, which was, again, announced in its annual report for households' financial well-being. This report comes at the same time as others that we have seen, looking at just how dramatically we're seeing things like credit card and auto loan default rates on the uptick here. So, again, I don't think any of those things are powerful enough to bring down the U.S. economy in the way the housing lunacy did of 2008, but important to look at when you consider the state of American households and, more and more consumers getting into default on their credit cards and auto loans. Can't be really seen as a good sign for anything other than, hey, maybe I can pick up a cheap used vehicle sometime in the near future.
Yeah, those delinquency rates, I was ready to sort of poo-poo them, but if you look back 12 years, we're getting to levels. It's not 08-09 levels of craziness, but it is a little bit more significant than what we've seen over the last 10 plus years or so. And this data on the income side to me is really helpful because of that inflation adjustment. Like you mentioned, we talked about how wage growth peaked in 2022, but that was on the heels of things costing more. Helpful to get this context that, hey, wages have come up even with the substantial impacts of inflation that we've seen over the last couple of years.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have a little bit of trivia, and then we'll dive into a piece about the Federal Reserve and why they need to be more bold. That's next on the Financial Exchange.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
If you're approaching or have recently reached the age of 73, required minimum distributions should be a key consideration as you evaluate your retirement strategy. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. There are several factors to think about when it comes to RMDs, including the types of accounts that require RMDs, when to take your withdrawals, how your RMD is calculated, and the penalty for missing all or part of an RMD. That's what our new guide this month is all about. It's called Frequently Asked Questions About Required Minimum Distributions, and you can get your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. RMDs are a key part of your retirement strategy, so don't delay. Get your guide today by calling 800-393-4001. That number one more time, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are three of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th through January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who've served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K, a run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Trusts are essential documents that can help protect your assets from the nursing home. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Let them help determine which is right for you. That's 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting their website at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia brought to you by Applebee's. Take your friends or family to any area Applebee's and enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m., including boneless wings, spinach and artichoke dip, and warm pretzels dipped in beer cheese. And don't forget to join Club Applebee's to enjoy exclusive deals and specials. You'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood, void where prohibited. Dine in only. Well, today is Alibaba founder Jack Ma's 60th birthday. Jack Ma and a group of 17 others founded Alibaba and ran the company until he resigned under suspicious circumstances back in 2019. Trivia question today: what year did Jack Ma launch Alibaba? Once again, what year did Jack Ma launch Alibaba? Be the 8th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt and be registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's. Be sure to include the keyword Applebee's in your text, and we'll give away that Applebee's gift card on Friday's show. 617-362-1385, and the 8th correct response will be our winner. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
I don't remember if it's Airplane 1 or Airplane 2, but there's a scene where they're covering the, airplane that's gone rogue, or in Airplane 2 case, spaceship that's gone rogue, and it cuts from clip to clip of news anchors across the world covering the story, and one of them is meant to be the Soviet Union, and there's just a off-camera gun pointed at the newscaster's head as he's doing the story, and that scene right there just reminds me of the, quote, suspicious circumstances under Jack Ma's resignation. It's like, yes, I'm writing this resignation of my free will while there's a gun off-camera pointed directly at my head.
He hasn't been heard from
ever again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is that funny? That's not funny. It is genuinely terrifying, and the only reason that I can fathom of that we seem to know here is that he was seen as too popular and too influential, and anyone that gets too popular under this Chinese administration of taking influence away from the all-powerful leader gets stuffed in a closet somewhere, and you never hear.
Well, they thought he was adversarial against their party.
I'm not even sure it was that. Like, he never even said anything like that.
I think he was just supporting
Hong Kong independence.
Yes,
was he?
A little bit. I mean, but it doesn't take much, to your point.
Yeah, my sense was just okay, if anybody here is growing to the point where people listen to them more than they listen to Xi Jinping, then you get stuffed in a closet somewhere and you're never heard from again.
I'm seeing August 10th, he reappeared in public view for the first time in months.
Yeah.
It was August 10th.
Of this year.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was the resignation?
Oh, boy. 2019, I think it was.
Yikes.
He's made public appearances since then.
No,
I know.
You
know, he had not been out in public for a very long time. The economy needs a bold Fed. We won't get it. That's an op-ed from Larry Hathaway. He is the co-founder of the Jackson Hole Economics and a former chief economist of UBS. And quite honestly, I don't recall having read any of his stuff prior to, but he lays out an interesting argument, I think, and it's one that we ourselves have debated on this program before. But it had more. We previously debated it when inflation was clearly getting out of control, and we said, well, clearly inflation's running wild. Why shouldn't the Fed just increase interest rates by 4% all at once and be done, rather than this slow approach that they have? Wouldn't that be better for the economy? And at the time, so Chuck was really landing in that argument of, hey, why not? Like, we know that's where interest rates need to go long term. Why not just bump them up all at once by like 4 percentage points and just see what happens? And my main argument against that was, I would imagine that there's a whole bunch of banks and investment companies that would just overnight fail if that were the case, if you had rates going up. I have a tougher time making that same argument on the way down. I don't know who would fail if rates moved down by 3 percentage points overnight. I'm sure there's somebody making some crazy bet like the Japanese carry trade that would blow them out overnight and make it not doable. But that's the argument that Larry's making here is, look, the Federal Reserve knows or has a very strong sense that their policy right now is restrictive in terms of growth. And inflation, according to them and most critics, is really an issue of the past. So why are we taking this 25 or 50 basis point approach to interest rates? Why shouldn't we just say, hey, we know rates are too high, bring them down to 4% immediately, and then we'll go from there?
My argument would be, and I'm not going to be able to back this up with any type of numerical data, but let's say they do step in and do 150 like that, next meeting. All of a sudden, we've talked about, Mike, my conundrum before about not even looking at a home equity line of credit to do a renovation on a porch because the interest rates were just too high. But all of a sudden, immediately overnight, that HELOC that I could get, let's say it's 6.5 or 7 today, and overnight the Fed says we're cutting 150 basis points, so 1.5%. All of a sudden, that's going to sit in, let's call it the 5% ballpark. Does that do enough to stoke inflation that me and every other Joe Schmo collectively out there, or there's just a tremendous amount of focus now on home improvement, borrowing, that puts inflationary pressure on the economy? I don't know, but that would be perhaps my guess. And the trickle-down impact that it could have to the housing market. I'm talking about the shorter end of the curve with the HELOCs there, but maybe the 10-year moves in lockstep as well, and it comes down significantly.
I would agree. Yeah, see, like, Larry pits this piece out and makes the assumption that inflation is 100% defeated and it's gone and it's behind us. And I think so. But, the worst possible outcome you can have is stagflation, right? Where the economy is stagnating and inflation is taking off. I don't think we can possibly head for there based on current policy. But if the Fed all of a sudden cut rates by 2% or 1.5%, do I have some twinge of concern that inflation could take back off? Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that most of the inflation we saw was due to supply chains, was more due to supply constraints than it was to surge in demand. But clearly it was a little bit of both.
Right.
And so...
And what if you have, you cut the rates immediately, you stoke up demand, and then you have a commodity shock that is unexplained out there, right? Whether it's some global event that just you can't plan for, and you have the two of those combined, and that cocktail leads to inflation rearing its head again. You're pot committed. You can't just flip back and go another 100 basis points back in the other direction. So that's why they likely take the gradual approach, is that it allows for them time to sit and process and react.
Now, the question will be,
50 basis points.
I want to replay this tape if 6 months from now we're sitting here with unemployment up over 5%. Then...
Well, that's the Monday morning quarterback crap that everyone's going to do if they don't get it right.
I recognize that. But, that's the exact Monday morning quarterback that the Fed themselves should be doing, to say, hey, if we do end up in recession here, What mistakes were made, and should we be acting more boldly rather than just trying to be ultra predictable, which is what Jerome Powell has tried to be. Ultra predictable in terms of action. Quick break. We're going to have the trivia winner for you next, and then some EV discussion, especially what's coming out of China right now. That's next.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have debt destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
Discover the fish and farm market at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18 and served proudly from 1981 to 1984. As CEO of Veterans Development Corporation, my goal is to give back to the veteran community, many of whom are employees of this company. This is one of the reasons I am so excited to be partnering with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts on this year's DAV 5K Boston. The DAV works tirelessly to support many of our disabled veterans and provide them access to critical services that help them live comfortably every day. I hope to be part of many more success stories of our vets being able to achieve their goals and dreams when their service ends.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
This is Tucker Silva with the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today, we're talking about your new guide, Todd, Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Now, do you lose control if you transfer your assets to an irrevocable trust in order to protect them from long-term care expenses?
Well, you know, that's great when you mention that irrevocable trust, but limit it to the kind of trust where you're protecting it from the cost of long-term care. Because as the guide says, there's 7 different kinds of trusts that we're trying to demystify. And there's also many kinds of irrevocable trusts out there, not just one type. So many people think there's just one type. But this particular type, where you're trying to protect it from the cost of long-term care expenses, the answer is no. You do not lose control over your assets. There's a whole spectrum of control with irrevocable trusts. And this one, you keep about 95% control. Like, you can live in your house. You can sell your house. You can buy another house. You can invest your money. You can manage your money. You can collect the income. Even the tax liability of these trusts are designed to be at your own rate. In other words, they are grantor trusts. You don't even pay any higher income taxes when you have this irrevocable trust. So this kind of trust, folks, You keep control and you protect your assets from the cost of long-term care.
Call right now for your free copy of Cushing & Dolan's comprehensive guide titled Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. It will help you determine what type of trust is right for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it from LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, trivia question today was, what year did Jack Ma launch Alibaba? That'll be 1999. Winner today of the Financial Exchange Show t-shirt was Steven from Worcester, Mass. And Steven's also registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's, which we'll give away on Friday's show. And trivia is brought to you by Applebee's. Enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m. And join Club Applebee's to enjoy exclusive deals and specials. You'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now, that's eating good in the neighborhood. Void where prohibited. Dine in only.
Paul, for the last, year and a half, the place to have your money arguably has been high-yield savings accounts, because they've been, paying a good deal of interest, more interest, generally speaking, than any longer duration type products like a 3-year CD or anything like that. Pretty clear that next week rates on those types of products are going to start coming down. If you haven't been participating, you should know that, there's high-yield savings out there with FDIC insurance paying, highest one I'm seeing right now is 5.3%. That's according to bankrate.com. My expectation would be that sometime next week, that probably gets cut down by 0.25%. And people are finally starting to question, okay, what do I do? If rates are going to start coming down, is there a better place for my cash? What do I do with it? And unfortunately, this might be another one of those stories where the time to act might have been several months ago.
Yeah, it's at some point here, the solutions that are proposed to perhaps extend the yield party a little bit longer to collect safely some interest on the excess cash that you have are really all short-term options, Mike, in terms of looking at CDs, or even the one-year treasuries have come down significantly there as well. Even if you are to jump into, let's say, that 5.3% savings that you're mentioning, that's truly temporary in nature. Some banks out there are still going to be a little late to lower those rates down as they're trying to attract deposits, but they move very swiftly to change those. And they mentioned the idea of dividend stocks. That's also a risky proposition too, because you have the loss.
Going from FDIC insurance to, a basket of dividend-paying stocks. Okay.
I was speaking with a listener the other day, a prospective client who had, a significant sum in Verizon and in AT&T, and was, lauding the dividend that they pay, which is high in terms of percentage, but you have to be clear that stock like AT&T and Verizon is down 20% over the last 5 years in terms of your principal. So yeah, it's great you put in $100,000 and you got paid 6 or 7%, but when your $100,000 is valued at 80 after that period of time, the percentage you're getting paid is higher, but you've effectively lost that 20% principal. Temporarily, the stock will go up and down, but that's something important to note.
I mean, maybe temporarily.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, right. It could be, and it could be further. You could take a further hit. So, big distinction between dividend stocks and a CD or money market. But I would say that
it all comes down to a core thing that we've talked about over and over: diversification, and also aligning your assets with your goals. Right, if this money was money that you want to permanently have generating interest, then all of it shouldn't have been in high-yield savings to begin with, right? As recently as April of this year, you would have been able to lock in a loan to the United States government for 4.7%.
Right.
It's looking pretty good now. If you go take a look at that back in October of last year, you could have done it at 5%. So, I mean, it has to do, again, with putting all of your eggs in one basket, and we're seeing the pitfalls of that now. Where you've continued to if you had done that, you've continued to outperform from the yield on that savings account being over 5%, but you're about to very likely see that take a pretty persistent cut over the next 12 months would be my guess.
Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are three of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you'll need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th to January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
Paul, I want to talk a little bit about EVs. I know you guys are going to find this hard to believe, but as it turns out, some of the big car companies' commitments that they made just a few years ago to only make EVs forever may have been a little bit overstated. Volvo's the most recent to back away from their pretty heavily promoted commitment to only building EVs by 2030. Citing a need to be pragmatic and flexible amid demand that just hasn't really been a thing so far. And yeah, we're continuing to see this, that the car companies who had previously been saying, no, we're only going to make EVs 5 years from now. We're going to sell 80% of our fleet being electric 10 years from now, are realizing that A, the cost to make that transition is very, very significant. And B, it's not really what the consumer wants unless I think there could be a scenario where that's where the consumer wants, but the federal government is going to need to be heavily involved, or someone's going to need to be heavily involved in building out the charging infrastructure, which is just not there.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot for a long period of time, where there was a significant amount of enthusiasm when borrowing costs were low for these companies on the manufacturing side to get out there and say, we're going to invest billions of dollars to build out these factories to produce electric vehicles. But as you mentioned, the demand has lagged, and a lot of that ties into the infrastructure issues. And you're right, it's going to be something that is going to require a significant amount of government intervention and subsidy. Difficult in a time where the government is running at a very significant deficit as it is, and it's harder to make those investments when the market share is so minimal that the electric vehicles make up of the overall vehicle market in the United States, and you're trying to reverse a 130-year trend. Right. It's hard to sell to consumers that way if you haven't built out the infrastructure.
I mean, fueling a car has always been this kind of loss-leading proposition, right? I mean, when gas stations were initially opened up, they were heavily subsidized and invested in by, big oil as well as car companies, because they recognize, like, hey, we've got this fantastic new product, but nobody's going to buy it unless they can buy gasoline somewhere. Right? And so these were the reason that every gas station you visit also has a convenience store and other ways of making money is because selling gas is
it's such a low margin business. Yeah, I don't think people realize how low margin it is for the gas station owners.
And so then take that and make the problem worse, right? Because you can fill up your tank. I can fill up my tank in no more than 5 minutes, so long as 4 people aren't also using the station. Take that and exacerbate it to the point where, okay, it's going to take me a minimum of 30 minutes more to fully charge most electric vehicles, even in a high capacity charger. And you can envision a scenario where it's not as though we just need to build out a whole bunch of gas stations that have EV charging stations. We need to completely rethink the process there, because you need something to do for half an hour while your car charges. And I don't think it's going to be sitting in the 7-Eleven staring at the revolving hot dog.
Yeah, when you're up against, I just was looking at, we've got 150,000 or 200,000 retail gas stores in the United States, depending on what numbers you look at. To replicate that to the point where you get it anywhere close, it just takes a long time.
That's an important distinction. Like I know people think about it that way, but you don't need to replicate that because
you're going to have the home charging network.
75-80% of charging happens at home.
Yeah, right.
And so that's where most of this is happening. But
you need some percentage closer to that.
Right. You need critical routes of EV charging networks, and you need enough of them so that when everyone goes to Vermont for the solar eclipse, they actually have a method of charging their car afterwards and getting down. And, that's not a problem for gas stations. It's a massive problem for EV charging stations. So I said at the time, right, when the Biden administration was passing these new tax breaks for producing and selling electric vehicles, I was like, you're subsidizing this part of the business, but that's not where it needs to be subsidized, right? Like you cannot have the sale of those vehicles without the investment in the charging infrastructure. And in my mind, one of them really needs to come before the other if you're going to create the demand for these things. And we're just not seeing that investment yet. It's not to say it won't come later. And, Tesla's playing a big role in that. But unless the other manufacturers get on board, I just don't really see it happening. And then also there's the bigger question of, is this what the federal government has any business in doing? So let's take a quick break. When we come back, Stack Roulette.
Breaking business and financial news first throughout the day. Only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are three of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th through January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
If you're approaching or have recently reached the age of 73, required minimum distributions should be a key consideration as you evaluate your retirement strategy. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. There are several factors to think about when it comes to RMDs, including the types of accounts that require RMDs, when to take your withdrawals, how your RMD is calculated, and the penalty for missing all or part of an RMD. That's what our new guide this month is all about. It's called Frequently Asked Questions About Required Minimum Distributions, and you can get your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. RMDs are a key part of your retirement strategy, so don't delay. Get your guide today by calling 800-393-4001. That number one more time, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisor advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Every single day, more than 2,000 U.S. companies face a cyber threat or attack. The Boston Red Sox in Fenway Park chose Centripetal as their official cyber network security partner to ensure the protection of their network and ballpark. Intelligence is the answer to protecting your network, and Centripetal is the global leader of intelligence-powered cybersecurity. The choice is yours. Are you going to be another one of those attacked companies? Or are you ready to experience a radical new cybersecurity solution? Find out why the Red Sox chose Centripetal at www.centripetal.ai. Trusts are essential documents that can help protect your assets from the nursing home. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Let them help determine which is right for you. That's 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting their website at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Time for a bit of Stack Roulette, Paul. I'm going to kick things off here with what I find to be almost a laughable story. But I want to just compare and contrast what I'm hearing from the auto industry coming out of China, which is just the Chinese Communist Party, and then what I'm hearing out of American car makers. And you just think about this in terms of whether you're going to be able to sell cars globally. China's BYD is pushing out some electric vehicles these days that sell for as little as $13,000 to $15,000. They are incredibly basic. I was listening on a podcast about one of these things that does not even have air conditioning in the back seats. It's a 5-seater. Gets about a 230-mile range. Does not have any even radio or electronics in the front. It is so stripped down and basic to get this price point down that it is just purely a vehicle of function designed for a working class Chinese citizen primarily, although they're also selling these things in Brazil and Mexico, in other emerging markets countries. And so, low cost, practical EV for working class. Ford, on the other hand, just patented an in-car system that eavesdrops on you so it can play you ads. And granted, they haven't actually ruled this out. It's just a patent. But the message that I'm hearing from Ford is Facebook, but listen, here's the catch, on wheels. If you are a, individual, I get that, in the United States, you're not going to be buying a Chinese-made EV. But if you are anywhere in the world, which one of these is more appealing to you, right? Like, why, if I live in India, would I even entertain buying a Ford vehicle or anything other than, like, I get in India why you wouldn't want to buy a Chinese-made electric vehicle either, but if I'm living in Brazil, if I'm living in Mexico, and I've got two big producers who do not make cars in my country, by the way. I know Ford probably has plants in Brazil, and definitely in Mexico, but I have the option of buying, a really stripped down basic car from China that is going for next to nothing. And yeah, it might spy on me. It might do some nasty things. And it's certainly subsidized by the Chinese government. Or I can go buy an American-made car. I just don't understand why anyone out there would be doing so. And what's really disappointing to me here is just like all the innovation that I'm seeing. I'm not saying that these are well-made cars. I'm sure that at the pace they in China are, putting these cars through and getting them out there on the market, there are going to be quality issues. I'm sure there are, fires and other issues like we see here in the United States. But I see innovation there, and just if this is the innovation we're getting in the U.S. car market is, hey, we're going to listen to your conversation and deliver you ads while you're driving, then we are in for some serious problems in the U.S.
Yeah, you have to think about it. How does that benefit the end consumer, Ford, at all? First of all, people...
It doesn't. It's going to drive up the profit margin of Ford.
Yeah, it's just crazy. That's not the focus when you're driving around. First of all, you don't want your conversations to be listened to. The privacy issue there is...
And I love, by the way, that like a big reason that we've talked about on this show of not allowing Chinese-made EVs into this country is, what about privacy concerns?
Yeah.
Ford's talking about listening to your conversations so that they can better deliver ads to you. Talking about privacy concerns? Are you kidding me?
Absolutely insane. It's but rather, at least on the Chinese side, you can make the argument, hey, they're providing something that is lower cost. Now, granted, they're subsidizing the heck out of that in order to
it's
allow
only
for those
lower
prices.
cost.
Yeah.
Because if you go to work for one of these Chinese manufacturers, you are making about $3 an hour. You're living in government subsidized housing at the factory. You're expected to work 67 hours a week. Like I get all of this. Right? Like it is absolutely subsidized. And it's also, really off-putting labor practices, right? You're literally living at your factory in factory-owned subsidized housing and if you want that job, you're making about $1,000 a month and you're expected to work 60+ hours a week with a day and a half off per month, something along those lines. It's insane. We would never agree to that here, but that's why these things are so cheap. That's the result of it. It's not as though the Chinese government is, just setting the price for these. It's just providing massive incentives and requirements of people to, work specific schedules, and they've got the people that are desperate to do it.
I've got Mike here, Red Lobster. We've got the rise and fall of a chain that was once valued at $2 billion just 10 years ago, now selling in bankruptcy court for a dizzying $375 million, significantly lower than what it was worth 10 years ago. And there's a longer piece here that goes through the whole history where Red Lobster had developed a really strong foothold in areas of the country that are landlocked and don't have the access that many of our listeners do on the New England region to seafood readily available.
Or the Portland, Oregon region. Thank you.
Portland, Oregon?
Yeah, we picked up a station in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, all right. Hell yeah.
Affiliate out there.
All right. For them too. But now you've got to a point where the ultimate demise came on the backs of them offering free shrimp all day, every day throughout many of their chains, which created all sorts of staffing issues, chaos in restaurants, customers that were taking advantage of the offering to the company's detriment as prices in some areas of the country there weren't offset the subsidy in New York versus, in a rural area. And it just became an absolute disaster as they closed 140 restaurants and posted a $76 million net loss in 2023 with $1 billion of debt. It'll be interesting to see if they can continue to scrape along after what's been a very tumultuous ride over the last couple of years.
I got to say, I think perhaps the most impressive part of this whole thing is that the New York Times managed to write a 17-page article about Red Lobster.
Some of the tidbits on the hiring front were just incredible, where they were meeting with 16 people a week, hiring everyone, but then hoping just 2 or 3 of them would show up during the free shrimp craze, a company that has just been really taken out and cracked apart.
Markets moving more into negative territory as we close out the show today. The Dow now off 300 points, 0.75%. The S&P off 15 points or 0.25%. And the NASDAQ now down 28 points. A little bit less than 0.1%. We will be back at it tomorrow, folks, breaking down the results of the debate. And then we also have inflation data coming out tomorrow. So big show tomorrow. Tune in and have a great rest of your day.